Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Obviously over the last few days, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have gone absolutely ballistic. We've hit price targets. I've got more price targets for you today, and I'll actually put it in today's video, and plenty on altcoins. Along with that, the everything bubble is really picking up steam. This is something we brought to you over a couple of years ago, at least what I remember from the lows, and previous to that, we also talked about the second half of the real estate cycle going up and then picking up more steam towards the end. Yes, I am talking about the end. However, there is still plenty of time to go, and this is essentially that period where people get very excited for all of these profits. So with that in mind, hit the like button. We've got heaps to get through in today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Plenty of content coming your way, especially as each of the day's analysis builds upon the previous day. It's your home of macro cycle analysis with me, Jason Pizzino, covering Bitcoin, cryptos, the stock markets, commodities, and the real estate cycle. This is the only place you get it on YouTube with everything. So I'm over in Dubai. I'm about to leave. Don't mind my voice and the jet lag here. I'll get back to you in Australia in the next couple of days, but I thought I'd give you an update because it's been a couple of days right now. This was the previous video I looked at just with the Bitcoin all-time high signal, and one of the patterns that no one had been watching, at least from what I have seen online, and it's essentially played out to a T. We've got our weekly swing chart, the yellows here. We've got our weekly lows, lower lows, higher lows, and then essentially it has broken out here almost exactly like the previous breakout in October and into November of last year. So almost like a 12-month repeat. So what happens from that point? Well, once you've had a pretty significant accumulation, if we can now call it that, because of the breakout and the weekly swing close, Bitcoin was up 17% on the week last week, and just from that low to the high for the entire week, it was 22%. So I guess over the last couple of months, yes, we had the August low. I didn't call the August low. I'm not trying to say that I did, but this whole period, I've been saying that this is most likely that accumulation area where you get a lot of energy. Once you break out of these pretty significant areas, this can lead to pretty significant moves. Now, that's most of the time. So I just want to give one quick tiny warning there. You can get moves up that sort of pause out for a bit, maybe try to scare the majority of people off, because you're really starting to see a lot of people get extremely excited. Super cycle this, meme cycle, super cycle, Bitcoin 100K tomorrow, that or in 2024. Just way, way, way too much greed, right? So even if there is that, I don't think anything is going to stop this bull market right now. But I think the bull market needs to do enough to fool a lot of people. So if the majority of people are expecting the price to pull back, then they're not going to get that pullback, and it's going to keep pumping. If the majority of people think it's just going to keep pumping, then it's going to have the pullback to scare those guys out. So I think it's going to do the opposite to what the majority of people think at that particular time. And for now, the trend is still on, and we've hit that first price target. So I just want to take a look at the overall markets now. So basically the traditional markets, just a quick recap here, because I know I go through it quite often in the videos, and that's the whole idea. Is this is where we're at in the entire financial space. We're into this stage of the year. We're in November, December. We've had that election, the S&P 500. Typically, this is like the fast, volatile period of the year when you look at each of the composites. So basically bringing together all of the cycles from each of the previous years. So 2024, every year ending in 4, every election year for 70 years, every year between the last 70 years gives you that blue line of what the market typically does. So, well, we can pretty much see November straight up. We've basically had that now for the S&P 500 pretty well straight up on that 1 week, one of the biggest weeks we've seen in a very, very long time, if ever, for this year. It's 4.6%. This one here was 4%, and I think it basically beats every other week since the 2022 low. So basically straight out of the November election. And you can see from last election in 2020, again, big week straight up, which then kick-started this move here. So it seems pretty obvious to a lot of people, which is a little bit unsettling, I think, for some. But as long as the trend is up, as long as you're still seeing the same sort of movements here with that strength to the upside, I don't think there's any reason to say that it won't happen just because everyone else can kind of see it. So just keep following the trend. And 2016, when Trump also got in, massive, massive week. There's the low, there's the top. In terms of a percentage, 3.8, but the overall low to high of the week was very, very large. Now, the Nasdaq's also experiencing one of its largest weeks it's had in a very, very long time. New all-time highs. Remember, this is the everything bubble. If I could find it right here, that's our 18.6-year cycle. I think more people are starting to realize the importance of this cycle, but that's more people that are watching this channel. And my channel is pretty small when you consider the entire world's financial space. So don't think that just because us here, there's few thousand people on the channel that are really watching this and paying attention to this cycle, just because we see it, that it's not going to repeat. It's got a long way to go, and you'd have to change millions and millions of people's minds about how financial markets work, about how the economy works, about their economic textbooks and what they learn in university and their models. You'd have to change millions of people's minds in order for this not to work. So we won't worry about that. This is still well and truly in play here. So the winner's curse phase, 2 years up, we've still got plenty of time across the board. So NASDAQ, again, also at new all-time highs. The Dow Jones at new all-time highs, one of its largest weeks in history, or at least recent history, 4.6%. And I think you're going to start seeing the Dow Jones, well, yeah, really get a good solid move on. I'm a bit hesitant to say whether it will outperform the NASDAQ and the S&P at this stage, but it might have the potential to do that. But I'll revisit that in future videos. Now, you've also got the VIX dumping, so the volatility index dropping off here. It was getting a little bit worrisome for some, where the volatility was increasing, which typically means it might lead to another dump in the stock market. But that has now completely been crushed. You've got a move back down into our bull market zone. This is for the volatility index, back in here between 11 and 17. You have the home builders ETF. So we're looking at the real estate and economic cycle, another bounce here off a nice 50% level. So overall, everything is still looking pretty well up. The Aussie market for us Aussies here, yeah, getting close to new all-time highs again. And a quick look at the US dollar, also pushing higher here, but a slight close under weakness. It really needs to get above 107, and that could change the analysis and invalidate some of the levels here, but nothing to do with the cycle as yet. So still looking really, really strong. And the 3-day rule called that low as well. So what happens next, looking towards the end of the year, if all these traditional markets are still looking quite strong and they're just starting that big move up, some of the data here shows that November, you've got at least a 2.7% up, and we've already done that for November, and then December, another 2.5%. So a pretty strong move to the end of the year. And that basically leads us now to some Bitcoin, some cryptocurrencies. I've got price targets, I've got altcoins, I've got altcoin price targets, what to look for, how to, sort of measure these breakouts. Now, in terms of the cycle, the overall cycle, this is playing out to an absolute T. This is Michael's analysis on Elliott wave. And I've talked a lot about it. It sort of just glazes over people's eyes sometimes, or they really don't think a lot about it. Michael, in my opinion, is the best in the business at applying the Elliott wave rules to the market. It's been working now for over 2 years, or he's been using it for over 15 years in his own trading. But in terms of what we're doing here, applying it to the crypto market, this is something that we've been sharing online now since early 2023. And so this has been playing out to a T using those same signals. Now, a lot of people can use Elliott wave rules in different ways, which leads them to different answers. And that's really the problem when it comes to Elliott wave. It's a bit hard to use for some, but so far, really, really good. Now, I say that because this next phase, or this next wave, is typically the longest, or the strongest and longest, meaning that there could be the most amount of gain. So if you kind of miss this part here, which is what we're starting to see with Bitcoin, breaking out pretty strong. It's like a strong move. The wave threes are usually very, very strong. You can be, it sucks, but the feeling is that you're left behind. So when a pullback comes into that next wave, wave 4, so in the middle, we're in the middle section here, we've got this big move to the upside for quite some time now. When that pullback comes, some people get on late, which is there, and then they sort of ride that for the final wave. So you had that wave 5 within a wave 3 perhaps, or a wave 5 within a wave 5. So the main thing is those guys are going to be extremely late, and it happens every single time in the cycle. So what you can do is just hold your stops underneath this zone here of the market. So have it underneath some of these levels. If this market is to break back down, if Bitcoin is to go back underneath these highs and start to close under these levels, that is weak. This is like a fake breakout if that happens. I don't think it's going to happen considering what we can see on the chart now. But I'm saying if that does happen, you have to have a plan for it, because no one knows what happens on this side of the chart. Like, I can't control that part. I'm just reading what the market is saying here. So essentially, it does go back under roughly these levels. I'm showing you here on the chart, like highlighting them there. That is a very weak signal to break back underneath these particular lows at roughly around the mid $60,000 level. So we're at 81,000. Let's move to something a little more, I guess, bullish, hopium-esque, with the moon boys and all that sort of jargon, which I guess I've been lapping up here with where I'm in Dubai. Anyway, moving on to these price targets. $81,500. Now, I apologize. Yes, I didn't say it in the video, but for anyone that was reading, I wrote it in the description, so you didn't have to go through the entire video and not get that price target. I wrote it right there, and then I wrote it here for you as well, and then everyone else also chimed in. So thank you very much to you guys that mentioned that to the other viewers. So yeah, Bitcoin, that 81,500 was based off this move, low to high to the low, and then projected up. It smashed through 50%, which was the all-time high as well in the previous top, and got to that target of 100%, being 81,500. So before I forget, let's have a look at the next target. So we're now extending the upside moves. That upside target is 88,900. You want a round number, call it $89,000. But that's basically just working off this smaller range, shorter term move. Now, it's entirely up to you whether you decide to take a little bit of profit. It could go to 150K, that's okay. But do you want to take a little bit off? Entirely up to you. Personally, I'm not. But it's all up to the individual, because for me, I've sat through 70% drawdowns. I'm fine if this thing draws back down another 10% or whatever that might be, 5 or 7% back to these highs. It doesn't shake my position because my position is so much lower. But for you, your position might be a little higher, and that profit means a lot more to you than it does to me or someone else. So that's entirely up to the individual, and that goes for every single chart, any altcoin, anything like that. So in terms of the short term, that's an extension of this move to $89,000. A 200%, just for shits and giggles, is at $96,300. $96,300. Now, the next targets I want to have a look at are something a little longer. So using that August low, and we'll go up to this top here just before the breakout and project it off this smaller low here. So we're looking at around 79K, which has been broken through. So that's a good sign. You've got a break of the 50%, meaning there's underlying strength here. Remember, this is potentially not going to hit tomorrow, because the time frame that I'm using is over, I'd say, nearly 3 months. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, about 13 weeks, 3 months. It could be somewhere within that time zone. Could be 3 weeks, could be 2 weeks, could be 3 months, right? To get up to here. I think it's going to be a lot sooner, but just remember the time frame and the price range that I'm using is a lot longer. Therefore, I'm looking for bigger targets to the upside. So yeah, something potentially around 103 as well. So as for the next price targets on a much longer term time frame, I'm using the entire range, that breakout range from the low to the high. So September 23 up to March 24. So it's a long time frame. It's a big price range. Therefore, it can take a lot longer to reach than, I guess, tomorrow or next week. And do note, projecting it off this low in August means that we've already been in this time frame now, coming up to 14 weeks. So 3 months in this time zone, this time frame. And the last time frame took about 6 months to reach that target of $74,000. So if we project up, this could be about a 100% move up to about $98,000 from that low. And it could happen anywhere, say, for quarter 4 or quarter 1. That's where I think that could occur. So anyone that's sort of calling 100K in November, look, it's possible, and the market is moving pretty damn fast. But I think it's probably more like December or quarter 1 to get to that point. So that's the first of the targets and the long-term targets for Bitcoin, 98K. So let's have a look a little further up using this exact range here, and then I'll give you even higher targets as well. The next one is 150% of this move, which is possible because of what I've talked about here with the Elliott wave. If this is the longest and the strongest wave, meaning that it does the most move, well, then you could potentially expect that you're going to see the longest and the strongest projection of price targets to the upside. So don't get confused. It might not happen in the next one, which could come months later. But in terms of this one, it's typically how it works. Okay, so next one up is around $122,500. Now, it seems crazy at this point, but it is at 80K. That's only a 50% move when you think about it for Bitcoin to get to that level. And it can move pretty damn hard and fast. There is going to be corrections along the way. That's got to be accounted for, and people will lose faith because you're getting a lot more craziness come into the market. But nonetheless, there's my target there, up there for the longer term. So we'll keep following it up using this range here. Just to have a quick look at 200%, 146,900, and let's use a longer time frame again. The entire range so far, the low to the top, projected off the August low, that gives us a $107,500 target just for that entire move. So you can start to see some of these prices are quite similar, 98, 99, 107. You're getting a bit of a cluster around there, which means you might see some resistance come in once the price gets there. And as we move a little higher, 136 and 165. Now, I just skim over those because you've got to get to 90 and 100 first, and then 120, 150. So there's no point in putting your hopes on this to get there before we even get to 100K. So let's just do one step at a time and not lose our minds like the rest of the market will. And we need the rest of the market to lose their minds so that you can take some profits off them. That's essentially how the whole thing works, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it. So that's what I think is happening next. The left and right translated cycle, we are now dead on par there. So this is basically looking back at the bigger cycles just to see if everything's still working out. Left translated, we're in that now. We're moving into the right if we get there. We continue to put in to new all-time highs next month and in quarter 1 of 2025. All the left-hand translated cycle guys here have been wrong. I mean, everyone's wrong at a time, but I think the main thing here is that a lot of people are sort of hanging their hopes on that this was the peak and all of the financial markets were going to collapse. And that was 100% not what we said. We did not say that any of the markets were going to collapse. We were very confident that the 18-year cycle was still playing out and we were going to go to new, fresh highs across the globe with your major financial markets, and that has panned out. So that's still all looking pretty good. Now, if you want to sort of implement this longer term into your longer term strategies, may I suggest TIA weekly report and also TIA Premium. Now we have the Black Friday sale coming up in just a couple of weeks, so get your name onto the email list and you'll get the free reports in the meantime, plus when the sale goes live, you'll learn more about that then. So essentially that's with our membership to learn how to basically create your own trading and investing plans longer term across stock markets, crypto, and of course, real estate as well. So here we are. We're at the tipping points for the altcoins. You wanted to get to this altcoin stage of the video. We've got the first breakout. Here it is, 480 billion on your true altcoin market cap. And it's run up very, very quickly to the next target here. So this is our true altcoin market cap, which excludes stable coins, which is the big one here, ETH and Bitcoin. And that's why we're looking at numbers that you might not see on your charts there. So there's 580. This one's basically a link in the video description here with the free 7-day trial, which you can go and check out for yourself. Basically, the tipping point, my whole theory around this is once we get to these levels, the market starts to run very, very fast. Did it happen? Yes, it's happened. So that's occurred. I got this from the last cycle when you can see as it breaks out of key resistance levels, and learning how to find those key resistance levels is really key. that to find where that energy and momentum comes into the market and whether it's a true move or a false move. Now, nothing is guaranteed in the game, but you just stack the probabilities on your side when you can identify these levels. So the next tipping point, as you can see, is up around the monthly swing tops, and that is Gann analysis. If you can understand Gann analysis, looking at your swings, that point comes in roughly around $650 to $680 billion, and we are working our way there pretty damn fast. We're at around 580 billion right now, coming in a little week or two earlier than the timing we were looking at earlier, which is pretty much on track when you're looking at a 2-year timing cycle. So give it a couple of weeks either side, it seems to be working out relatively well. So that leads us over to ETH and the altcoins. ETH has punched hard last week, 30%, breaking the 28, the 29, the 3,000, and the $3,100 level. Very, very strong move, very, very good volume on this break to the upside. What's going on? That's anyone's guess. You could name it down to anything, but just 2 weeks ago, everyone was calling ETH absolutely dead, and they were looking to trade their ETH into Sol or into Bitcoin, and it typically happens towards those lows. Now, this timing is also working out very, very well for ETH BTC. Essentially, 42 months from a very significant peak from 2021. So basically, I'm just looking at timings here from peaks to significant lows that then start a strong move. Right now, we're on that time frame, 42 months, and as you can see here, that was 42 months as well to this higher low, which then started a strong move to the upside, which didn't really last that long of ETH versus BTC. So this could be the start, but ETH has got a lot of work to do to get back into a very strong position against Bitcoin. Plenty of levels here, which I'll go through in future videos. 5%, 6% of Bitcoin's value, and then it even needs to get back above 8.5%, 9% of Bitcoin's value to actually be strong against BTC longer term. But for now, it's pretty much just rallying back up to those tops. Doesn't mean it can't get great gains, and that's what we're looking at here. Very, very good gains in the short term. Solana, looking good, strong, $211 breakout there. I think got to 215. And on the weekly, it has been quite strong as well. Very strong move. And guys, if you remember that 4th time breakout, that's how powerful Gann's signals are. Gann is Mr. Gann, Mr. William Dilbert Gann, Mr. W.D. Gann. This is the stuff he came up with over 100 years ago. So when you study it and learn how to implement it for your own trading, I think you've got an absolute front run on the majority of the market. They sort of discredit a lot of things, old things, and think stuff just has to be new all the time. But these signals are incredible. And he found this stuff out by hand. Obviously, we know there's no computers 100 years ago. He did this shit over and over again. And so that, I think, is really where the genius lies, when you can do stuff by hand and figure it out for yourself. So 1, 2, 3, 4th time breakout, push, test, and it blew. Salana has blown now from sort of 160 up to 210, 215. Longer term targets. Let's have a look. Well, it's attempting to break out of the long term. I'll do short terms in future ones, but let's have a look at some longer term stuff. We've got 211. We have the top now 260, 267. Just depends on which exchange we're looking at here. So if we look at 100% of this entire move thus far projected off the low, which is what Gann would have done, $312. 312. Let's, for shits and giggles, let's look a little higher. That's 413. When I get back to Australia, I'll do some more videos on these altcoins, so make sure you do subscribe and like this video if you want to see more of that. And in the pinned comment, let me know which alt in particular, some of the bigger stuff, so we can all look at that. Essentially, Solana looking very strong, and also was looking strong against its Bitcoin pairing as well. Quick look at SUI here. Very strong move as well. Breakout of the highs. Remember, we cover this on the channel, looking at the pullbacks of average drawdowns, which helps on entries. The pullbacks were roughly 20 to 25%, or the very best 30 to 35. And it hit dead in the middle there at 32 and then powered away, broke all-time highs, and then pushed even stronger through that. That's what you want to see with a stronger altcoin, breaking to fresh highs. And then as it does that, increased volume. And if you'll notice on a lot of these, this one's on a daily chart, but you can see the increased volume as it breaks through the highs. ETH, increased volume as it breaks through the highs. Bitcoin, increased volume as it breaks through the highs. What you don't want to see are lowering volume or weaker volume as it breaks through the highs. This is the previous all-time high for Bitcoin. Look at that volume. Absolute shithouse. Absolute shithouse. It just didn't have any momentum to keep it going. Therefore, it closed lower and then crashed. Okay, but this time is different. Not in that sense, but you're at a different stage of the cycle. Therefore, for this to continue on, you expect it to do some strong moves with strong volume. That's what needs to occur to keep this everything bubble. Where's our bubble? There's everything bubble going. The winner's curse phase, where everyone thinks they're a winner and that things are not going to change and they're going to keep going up because of things like Trump winning the election. I bet that's going to be a big thing coming up in the next couple of years as we start to look for the peak. But I'll leave that for future videos. Like, subscribe, check out the links in the video description for TIA Premium and the weekly report, which is coming out in 24 hours. Other than that, I'll see you guys back here at the next video. Goodbye from Dubai, and hopefully I won't have my tired looking eyes and jet lag when I get home. All right, guys, take care. Peace out.